Something's happening that nobody wants to talk about. Right now, while you're watching this video, FEMA is quietly updating their emergency winter guidelines. Not for some distant apocalypse scenario, but for this winter. The one that's just weeks away. Here's what they're not telling you on the evening news. This isn't going to be your typical winter with a few snowstorms and higher heating bills. The experts behind closed doors are using words like grid instability and cascading failures. Translation: when the next Arctic blast hits, the lights might not come back on for days, maybe weeks. Remember what happened in Texas just a few years ago? Families huddled in their cars in their own driveways, running the engine just to stay alive. People in million-dollar homes burning their furniture piece by piece, watching the flames eat their dining room table while their children shivered under every blanket they owned. That wasn't some third world country during a war. That was modern America. But here's the thing that's going to shock you. FEMA's updated survival list doesn't include expensive generators or fancy survival gadgets that cost thousands of dollars. Instead, they're recommending 9 simple, cheap items that most people completely ignore. Items so ordinary that you probably walked past 3 of them just getting to your computer today. The scary part? These aren't suggestions for extreme survivalists living in bunkers. These are must-haves for regular families who want to avoid becoming another tragic news story. And the most disturbing part of all? You can get every single one of these items for less than what most people spend on groceries in a week. Before we reveal what's on this list, I need you to think about something. Have you noticed the signs already? Maybe your electric bill jumped higher than expected last month. Maybe you've seen empty shelves at the hardware store, or noticed your neighbors stocking up on things they never bought before. Because what you're seeing in your neighborhood right now might be the early warning of what's about to hit everywhere. Personal heat sources that actually work when everything else fails. Most people hear battery-powered heat and immediately think it's some gimmicky gadget from a late-night commercial. They imagine tiny pocket warmers that barely heat your hands for an hour. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about legitimate heat sources that can keep you alive when your furnace becomes a useless metal box in your basement. When the power grid fails during a winter storm, your house becomes a giant refrigerator. The cold creeps in through every crack, every window, every wall. Your breath starts forming clouds inside your living room. Your fingers go numb even under gloves. This is when most people make the fatal mistake of trying to heat their entire house with dangerous methods like gas stoves, charcoal grills, or burning furniture indoors. Here's what FEMA knows that most people don't. You don't need to heat your house. You need to heat your body. Your core temperature is everything. Keep that stable, and you can survive in conditions that would otherwise kill you. Let it drop just a few degrees, and hypothermia starts shutting down your organs one by one. Modern rechargeable hand warmers aren't the weak little chemical packs from 20 years ago. Today's versions can pump out heat for 8 to 12 hours straight. Battery-heated vests can warm your entire torso using the same lithium batteries that power your cordless. Some people are even converting car batteries into heating systems using simple inverters and heating pads. The genius of these devices isn't their technology, it's their efficiency. A single charged hand warmer can be passed between family members, tucked into sleeping bags to create warm pockets, or rotated to different parts of your body throughout the night. Unlike dangerous heating methods, there's no carbon monoxide poisoning risk, no fire hazard while you sleep, and no toxic fumes filling your house. Emergency medicine experts have studied hypothermia deaths during power outages, and the pattern is always the same. People who survive aren't the ones with the biggest generators or the most expensive equipment. They're the ones who kept their core body temperature stable using simple, targeted heat sources. They focused on warming themselves, not their entire living space. Emergency blankets that could save your life. Everyone thinks they understand blankets. You go to the store, buy something soft and fluffy, toss it on your bed, and call it a day. But when winter emergencies hit, that cozy fleece throw becomes about as useful as a paper towel in a hurricane. Here's what most people don't realize until it's too late. Those Instagram-worthy throws that look so perfect in your living room photos will literally fail you when you need them most. The moment your house starts bleeding heat like a broken dam, those fluffy blankets turn into expensive disappointments that can't hold warmth for more than a few minutes. FEMA doesn't mess around with pretty blankets. They recommend what they call fortress blankets, the kind that actually trap heat and refuse to let it escape. We're talking heavy wool blankets like your tough-as-nails grandmother kept at the foot of her bed. Military-grade synthetic materials that were designed to keep soldiers alive in foxholes during brutal winters. Thick thermal layers that look ugly but perform like champions when everything else fails. Here's the scary science behind why this matters. When your body heat starts bleeding out through thin fabric, you don't just get chilly. you enter a dangerous spiral. First comes the fatigue that makes you want to just lie down and rest. Then your brain starts getting foggy and confused. You stop thinking clearly about what you need to do to stay alive. For older folks or anyone already dealing with health issues, this can become life-threatening within hours. A real fortress blanket stops this deadly heat bleed before it starts. The dense weave creates thousands of tiny air pockets that trap your warm breath and body heat, then cycles it back around your body like a personal heating system. These blankets don't quit after an hour like those department store throws. They keep working all night long. But here's where it gets really smart. A heavy-duty survival blanket isn't just for sleeping. When the floor turns into an ice-cold heat thief, you can use it as ground cover. Got drafty windows bleeding cold air into your room? Wedge that blanket into the window frame. Need to section off one warm room from the rest of your freezing house? Hang it in a doorway like a thermal curtain. The invisible danger that catches people off guard is how quietly the cold infiltrates through glass. You don't always feel it happening. There's no dramatic whoosh of freezing air or obvious draft. Instead, it's a silent, steady thief that steals your body heat degree by degree, until suddenly you realize your core temperature has already dropped to dangerous level. This is exactly why experienced preppers and survivalists never skip window fortification. They know that all the fancy heaters and expensive gear in the world won't help if your house is bleeding heat through unprotected glass. So stop thinking about heating first. Think about defense first. Build shields for your windows using whatever you can get your hands on. Heavy blankets, foam boards, reflective insulation, even layers of cardboard and towels taped together. When the blackout strikes and the cold starts clawing at your walls like a living thing, the only barrier standing between you and hypothermia might be those improvised shields you stapled over your glass. Protect the windows, protect your body. That's the survival formula that actually works. Off-grid heat sources that don't quit when the power does. Here's a truth that most people don't want to face until it's too late. Cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's a silent predator. It creeps into your house like an invisible intruder, numbing your fingers so gradually you don't notice, stiffening your joints one by one, slowing down your thinking until your brain can't make the decisions you need to stay alive. When the power grid collapses and your furnace becomes nothing but a useless chunk of metal in your basement, what's your backup plan? Most people reach for candles or flashlights, but those aren't heat sources. They're just pretty lights that mock you while you freeze. What you really need are fuel-powered radiant heaters. These devices show up in every single FEMA emergency shelter for one crucial reason. They don't care if the power lines are down. They don't depend on electrical grids or internet connections or any of the fragile systems that fail when you need them most. They run independently, pumping out infrared warmth that heats your body directly, instead of just warming the air around you. Picture this nightmare scenario. Your house has been silent for hours. The wind outside sounds like it's trying to tear your roof off. You're wrapped in every blanket you own, but you're still shivering so hard you can't hold a cup steady. Then you fire up a radiant heater, and everything changes. Suddenly the cold doesn't dominate every corner of the room. You feel actual heat spreading across your chest. Your frozen hands start to thaw. Most importantly, your hope comes flickering back to life. But let's be brutally honest about the dangers here. These heaters come with rules that could save your life or kill you, depending on whether you follow them. You absolutely must have proper ventilation. Carbon monoxide poisoning has killed more people during winter emergencies than hypothermia in some areas. You need clear space around the heater. No curtains, no papers, no clothing, nothing flammable within several feet. And you need a quality heater with built-in safety features like oxygen depletion sensors and automatic tip-over shutoffs. Use the wrong model, or ignore these safety warnings, and you might survive the cold only to die from fire or poisoning. But when used correctly, nothing beats a radiant heater during a winter blackout. The fuel is the key to their power. Propane tanks and kerosene containers can sit in your garage for months, ready and waiting for that terrible night when the electricity fails and doesn't come back. Unlike battery packs that die after a few hours, a single gallon of fuel can provide night after night of life-saving heat. Stock a quality fuel-powered radiant heater. Keep extra fuel on hand, and most importantly, learn how to operate it safely before disaster strikes. Because when winter turns deadly, off-grid heat isn't a luxury item. It's the difference between survival and becoming a statistic. The food crisis that hits before you realize it. You might survive the darkness and you might beat the cold. But try going without food for just a few days during a winter emergency, and you'll discover a whole new level of despair that most people never see coming. Here's what's terrifying about hunger during winter survival situations. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic stomach growling or obvious pain. Instead, it whispers. Your hands start shaking so subtly, you don't notice at first. Your thinking gets foggy and you can't make simple decisions. Your muscles stop responding the way they should, and suddenly tasks that seemed easy become nearly impossible. This is why FEMA hammers one critical point into every single emergency preparedness guide they publish. Non-perishable food storage isn't just recommended, it's absolutely essential for winter survival. But here's where most people get it completely wrong. We're not talking about grabbing a few bags of chips from your pantry or counting on that half-empty box of cereal to get you through. We're talking about serious shelf-stable survival meals that are specifically designed for emergency situations. Freeze-dried food packs, military MREs, high-calorie ration bars, and retort pouches that can sit quietly in your closet for years, waiting to become your lifeline when everything else fails. The genius of these emergency meal kits isn't in their taste, though modern versions are surprisingly good. The real power is in their reliability. Many brands offer 25-year shelf lives now, with multi-layer sealing that locks out oxygen and moisture. Some need just a splash of water to become a hot meal, while others can be eaten straight from the package. Either way, when delivery trucks can't reach your neighborhood and grocery store shelves sit stripped bare, you won't be the one standing in line hoping for government help. Imagine this. You're inside your home, thinking you're safe from the cold, but winter has a way of creeping in silently. You don't notice it at first, until your fingers stiffen, your toes go numb, and suddenly even holding a tool feels impossible. That's the invisible danger of cold weather. It sneaks up on you before you realize just how much trouble you're in. But the good news? With a smart setup, you can stop the cold before it ever takes control. Start with something small but powerful. Hand and body warmer. Keep a few in your car, rotate them each year to make sure they stay effective, and pair them with thick socks, gloves, and layered clothing. This isn't just comfort, it's a system, a shield that blocks winter's bite. Think of it like building a chain of defense. Add thermal bottles, warm blankets, and those tiny heat packs, and suddenly you're not just enduring the cold, you're outsmarting it. But let me share something most people overlook. The real danger in winter isn't always the freezing air. It's being cut off, isolated, powerless. When a blackout hits and the grid goes down, your phone transforms from a gadget into a lifeline. It's your link to weather updates, emergency services, family, and even rescue instructions. But what happens when that battery dies in the middle of a storm? That's where a compact solar battery charger comes in. Don't picture huge panels on a roof. These are lightweight, foldable chargers that fit in a backpack or even hang by a window. They can pull energy from daylight, even on cloudy days, and store it in a battery pack. That single pack could power your phone, flashlight, or even a small heater for days. And in survival mode, communication is everything. A single charged phone can guide an evacuation, calm panicked family members, or confirm that help is on the way. It's not a luxury, it's security. And here's something FEMA backs up. They list backup power for communication as essential in winter emergencies.